We are less than 2 days away from the NFL draft. The Buffalo Bills are picking 30th overall in the first round, have 10 picks. We are going to discuss prospects, rumors, and also some dream draft day scenarios for the Buffalo Bills. Let's go!
To my friend Nate and all the listeners of this podcast, no one circles the wagons than Nate Disgate. Circle the wagons, Buffalo.
Where else would you rather be than right here, right now?
Hey, let's go Buffalo! Hey, let's go Buffalo!
The Bills make me wanna shout.
What is up, Bills Mafia? Welcome to another episode of Circling the Wagons, a Buffalo fan base podcast. I am your host, Nate, guys. Thank you so much for joining us just 2 days before the draft. It's insane. It's less than that. It's soon it'll be less than 24 hours. It's going to be here before we know it. Lots of stuff to discuss. We have some news and notes over this past week, which is kind of crazy because I didn't think a whole lot of things would happen. The Bills are having voluntary workouts right now in Orchard Park. We discuss a little bit of that and some rumors stirring around about who the Bills might pick in the first round. Do we think it has any substance? Is there any validity to it? Or is it all just smokescreen, which is probably what it is, but we'll discuss that. I'd like to welcome my co-host, John, to the podcast. John, what's going on, man? Can you believe it is the draft?
I can't wait. This last week has been really slow. I've been hoping it'd go quicker. I'm ready.
You sound ready. I love the draft because it's like the closest thing in football to like Christmas morning, right? Like where you get your new toys and there's fun stuff to play with, and you're just hoping that you get like, a Super Nintendo instead of like a pair of socks, right? So we really want that Super Nintendo, especially in the first round, because we don't have a history of really crushing those first round picks. So hopefully this season bucks that trend and we find some good talent later, but we'll go over that too. John's going to go over some safety prospects. I'm going to go over some day 3 prospects I hope the Bills pick up and why. And just a lot of fun stuff. So first off, let's go into our news and notes. First thing on the board, John, we had the Bills needing cornerback as one of their biggest needs positionally. The Bills got one of those guys this weekend. They re-signed. Or should I say they signed? I guess it's not re-signed because he wasn't currently on a contract. He didn't extend him, whatever the case is. He was gone. He is back again. Tre'Davious White, goalie academy fame. Tre'Davious White, first round pick of the first draft of Sean McDermott. Tre'Davious White, one of the fan favorites, one of my favorite players that's been on this Bills roster, especially in this new regime. John, just a solid cornerback, really good in zone. Unfortunately, he dealt with a couple of major injuries the last few years, which caused the Bills to cut him and release him early, to where he signed with the LA Rams last offseason, and then he got cut, and then he was signed by the Ravens in the postseason. We saw a little bit of him in Orchard Park. John, first off, do you like this signing? And then second of all, do you think it affects what the Bills do in the draft?
Like the signing, obviously familiar with the defense. Not quite the same after his couple of injuries. I don't think it affects anything. I think it's still my top need. I mean, if I were to ask you their cornerback depth chart right now, where would you rank Tre'Davious White?
Second.
Really?
Yeah, second above Dean Jackson. Oh, you mean, not include on boundary cornerbacks. I guess if you're including Taron Johnson, third. Benford, Taron Johnson, third. And then Tre'Davious White.
Yeah, Johnson and Bedford for sure.
Why? Where would you have him? Would you have Dean Jackson above him?
No, but I think it'd be close, and even Jamarcus Ingram. I like it. I like the depth, but I don't think it's a necessarily like, okay, now we're set at starter.
Agreed. I think if anything, it just raises the floor of that cornerback to whoever it is, right? So like instead of it being Dane Jackson, which Dane Jackson, we're familiar with. You mentioned all the things about familiarity with the defense. I mean, Dane Jackson has all those. He just never had that first round pedigree or Pro Bowls or whatever you want to call with it, all those accolades because he just was never as good. I mean, he wasn't bad.
He was adequate for
He was
sure.
adequate.
I mean, it wasn't, it was never a bad player overall. Uh, Cornerback's one of those positions you can't have enough of. So to bring a couple of those guys back, go Bills. And I still think it's a top need.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, you could easily get someone on possibly day one or day two that could fight with Trey for that other CB2 position and potentially beat him out before the season. You know what I was thinking too, John, is you mentioned Siobhan Revel Jr. a couple of weeks ago when we were going over cornerbacks. One of his biggest knocks is he tore his ACL last September. But before that, like tall guy, has good length, great zone cornerback, probably a first round pick this season if he played as well as his 2023 season. But unfortunately, there's that ACL. To me, I look at guys like that, and I think it affords you the ability to take someone like that maybe in the second round and let him percolate a little bit on the roster. Maybe he's not completely healthy. Maybe he starts off the season on the pup, but gives him a year to really get his feet under him and hopefully become the boundary corner across from Christian Benford in 2026. So I think that this move allows you to look at round one. Does round one fall to you? Do you get that Trey Amos or maybe even a Jade Barron out of Texas? Probably not, but now you don't have to. If Trey Amos is there and you see some teams ahead of you that might take him instead, or someone might trade up to take him ahead of you, like the Trent McDuffie year. Now you don't have to trade up because you're like, maybe I can get away with, giving this guy a year off and setting down that floor. So I like that he's back. I feel much more confident than Dane Jackson. I like Dane Jackson as like a third or fourth cornerback for sure, especially over Kaiir Elam. But I agree with you.
I think White's in the same spot though. I think he's clearly lost a step, but it's great to have him for that. Like if he's a backup, that's awesome.
Yeah,
and for
I love him being the first backup.
But I mean, right now he's probably competing with Dane Jackson for that outside spot, right? So for me, I think it's all about tiers for the draft. I think they'll have their tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys, and when it gets to pick wherever they end up drafting, say 30, then it'll be, and they get, let's say they like 3 guys that are in their top tier that's left. Then they might go based on need, right? Something like that.
Yeah. Well, I think this allows them to look at their top tier of cornerbacks, and maybe it's the second tier, the third tier that they go to because they have Trey White. So I love it for the fact that it affords them to do that. Whereas before they might have been like, we really need to get this guy. We need to, put together some draft picks, which I think they still will, but they don't have to now.
They might not have to double dip at corner. Also.
Mm-hmm. That's true. The only 3. So we'll talk about dream draft day scenarios, and one of mine has to do with double dipping at cornerback, and I think it's got mostly to do with the fact that Dane Jackson, Trey White won't be around next year, and then it's really just Christian Benford. So sure, you have Jamarcus Ingram. I'm sure he'll probably be back. I think he might be a restricted free agent next year or whatever, but you don't have a whole lot after that. So it'd be good to have a day 1, possibly day 2 cornerback, and then another day 3 cornerback to go on top of it. So I'm still for double dipping, but you're right. It's not as big of a need to double dip now. I haven't put it out there that I wouldn't, but I might still do that. So the other news and notes is James Cook is MIA for voluntary workouts. The Bills running back who has had discussions over social media about how he feels he should get an extension. Not strictly saying that he deserves that, but kind of, saying it in between the lines, reading in between the lines, that's what he expects. And Brandon Beane has basically said we haven't continued any contract talks since March. So if I had to guess, I don't think he's going to get that extension anytime soon. But the question is now is, does his absence go from voluntary workouts into OTAs or possibly even training camp? So I guess that's something we're going to see, John. Maybe we'll talk a little bit later about drafting a running back at some point. But any thoughts on James Cook not showing up?
That has been a worry of mine that he might hold out, especially with his brother. But you can't trade him. At least not maybe after the draft. Like if somebody didn't get the running back they wanted. But they got to be willing to take on the contract that he wants. So that's going to be hard.
Yes.
I don't think they should pay him. You've known my stance on running backs for a while, and I know last year, your Derrick Henrys and Saquon Barkley's getting paid and doing their thing, but one, he's not at that tier. He might be the next tier, but two, I don't know. I just think the money could be better spent elsewhere. I love James Cook. Don't get me wrong.
What's funny is I always think about you because you hate paying running backs. And a lot of people are in your boat. I've definitely been more on your side as the years have gone by. I agree with that. I don't like paying running backs, especially unless you're like maybe a top tier running back, and especially if you don't have a quarterback to go with it. Like the Giants didn't. Didn't. Daniel Jones wasn't that good, so pay Saquon Barkley. I get it, but I always think of you because you don't like doing that. Yet you were super high on James Cook when the Bills drafted him. And you also don't like using high draft picks, day 1, day 2 draft picks on running backs. And he's still your best, and you still say don't pay him. So I'm with you. I think you can extend him. Part of me is wondering, is it worth paying, $2-3 million, go from 2-3 million to like 10 to 12 to 15 million a year? Or is it worth just drafting another guy in day 3? Or even day 2, perhaps.
I think he was looking for 15. That seems
a
lot, and they just extended a whole bunch of other guys.
Well,
they got more next year, so it's going to be hard. I think the thing for me stems from the drought, where they're never any good, and they're spending all these high draft picks on running backs, trading for LaShawn McCoy. I mean, they're great backs and everything. They drafted Marshawn Lynch and Willis McGahee. He was pretty good. Travis Henry was a second-round pick. C.J. Spiller was a first-round pick. But at the same time, Fred Jackson was undrafted, or I'm not saying talent level he was there, but he played really well for us. But at the same time, all those years, why aren't you drafting 5 quarterbacks every draft until you get one? or that's an exaggeration, but spend some money on the offensive line or something, or draft capital, I should say. It just always hurts me that they would just running back all the time. It's it's fine. They have 1,000-yard rusher every year, but you can't get more than 6 or 7 wins. So try something else. Maybe.
They drafted so many more first-round running backs than quarterbacks in that time frame is ridiculous. Or first or second-round running backs, whatever it was. It was just unbelievable. And it's just hey, you guys think you're set at quarterback? Are you the only ones that think that? I think that you guys have some okay guys to start, but not anyone that's a top 10 or even 15 quarterback, right? So why are you guys not? It seems so obvious, didn't it? Why would you not? I guess I don't know. It frustrates the hell out of me looking back at it. But yeah, agreed. I was there with you through the entire drought, John, and we probably had this discussion 100 times, and I don't even remember because we were just what are they doing? This is, but not to bring that up. Those are the what are drought scars, whatever the Nickel City crew came up with, which I agree with. So check out the rest of the group, by the way, on the Buffalo Fanbase network for live streams, podcasts, stuff like that, because there's some really good content out there on the Fanbase network. John, last thing is a first round linebacker was rumored to be a potential I guess, target for the Buffalo Bills in round 1. So right here, this is from Adam Schefter. He said in his paywall article, UCLA linebacker Carson Schwessinger, projected by many as a day 2 pick, has a chance to go at the end of round 1 to a team such as the Commanders at number 29 or the Bills at number 30 that might be looking for additional defensive help. So I guess I look at that. John, what are your first thoughts? Before I give any of my thoughts, what are your first thoughts when you read that rumor?
Well, my knee-jerk reaction was like, oh no, they have bigger knees, but it is a need still. Milano, they have lost a step, right? And then we're banking on Dorian Williams and Joe Andreessen. I mean, really, the only sure thing right now is Bernard, right?
Well, I think so. I think they have 2 good starters, Milano when he's healthy, but even when he's not healthy, I think Dorian Williams played pretty well. I mean, he wasn't Matt Milano good, but I thought he was solid depth last year, and there were times where he flashed. I like Dorian Williams as a potential, as a backup, as their first backup. I think that they could use another linebacker for sure. I'm going to talk about one of my day 3 sleepers that I really like, who's a linebacker. I just don't think that it's a first round need, right? If they went on like the 4th round, and we're going to talk about the picks that they have available, but if they went in the 4th round at a linebacker, I mean, I would be slightly surprised, but it wouldn't blow my mind. It's like, oh, well, it's a bigger deal to them than what we think. Like, they might be ready to move on from Matt Milano already. They did just remove a year from his contract. So this is, I believe, his last season on the roster. I just don't know if it's nearly as big of a need as what we show on the screen: cornerback, defensive tackle, defensive end, safety, wide receiver. Like, I mean, I know linebacker, maybe I could make an argument that linebacker could be above running back and possibly wide receiver, but not above safety.
Definitely the biggest need overall for sure.
Yeah.
Like if they their first 4 picks are all defense, I'm okay with that.
Me too. I'm completely good unless something happens where just some amazing wide receiver or guard or tackle falls to them, and they're like, we just have to do that. Because if you think about it, the Bills did just re-sign and extend Spencer Brown, but I mean, Deion Dawkins is getting up there. He's 31. He hasn't slowed down, but at some point he might. And this is a very deep tackle class. So could I see the Bills taking a tackle? Could I see the Bills taking a guard? Sure. But mostly, or a wide receiver if one falls with a good value, sure. But I like you said, I'd go defense all the way.
Yeah. Especially because their offensive line depth is really good too right now.
Yeah, for once. For once, it really is. What do you know? So I think smokescreen, John. So let's go into our draft. The biggest Bills, I guess the big board of Buffalo Bills needs. And we have it at the top. We have cornerback still number 1, even after the Trey White signing. We have number 2, defensive tackle. Number 3, defensive end, which we've all discussed those first 3 positions in previous episodes. If you haven't caught those, please do. We talk about the top 3 or 4 prospects we like in each area that fit the Buffalo Bills. Number 4, safety, which we have not gone over, but John's going to list a couple. Not a good draft for safeties. There's a lot of the top Bills needs it's a good draft for, not safety. Wide receivers we talked about, and we didn't go over running backs or punters. Linebackers. I'm going to mention one tonight, but again, those are probably day 3 needs. So there's a long spectrum of guys that they could take there. I mean, they could take a running back that's really primarily a special teams guy, right? And you're like, oh, I wasn't looking at pure special teamers, and then that's who they draft. So, not going to go into a lot of that, but yeah, John. So the deepest positions in the draft I mentioned in the NFL draft, defensive tackle is one of them. Defensive end is good, which works out because the Bills are two big needs there. Offensive tackle is one of the deepest positions in the draft this year. So would I suspect it's possible the Bills take a tackle late in day 3, hoping to get some day 2 value out of them? I mean, think about it. Spencer Brown and Deion Dawkins were day 2 tackles. So that's not out of the realm of possibility. I'm going to give a tackle that I like to talk about in day 3. Some guy that could potentially play guard for the Buffalo Bills, because you forget about like these offensive tackles. If they don't have the longest arms, if they're not the most athletic, they could potentially play guard for the Buffalo Bills. And then cornerback, wide receiver, and running back, those are the deepest positions in the draft this year, which works into the Bills' favor. John, you wanted to talk about a couple of safeties, possibly in day 1 and day 2 for the Buffalo Bills. What kind of traits do you look for, just like in safeties, when you look at the Buffalo Bills and players that they've had in the past or players that they don't have right now, and what kind of traits?
And if only they could get Poyer and Hyde back in their prime, that's really the ideal. Like they gotta have guys who are leaders, versatile. I mean, obviously good in coverage. They gotta tackle, not be slow.
Yeah. Athletic.
Yeah, I mean, I like Hamlin, but he's really slow when you watch him in the backfield. So I don't know. Yeah,
Doesn't it feel like they have a lot of strong safeties on their roster?
right. Yeah, and I feel like the top 3 guys for me are all free safeties. The number 1 guy can probably play either, and he's not going to fall to us. I didn't actually pick him as somebody to talk about, but no, free safety would be great. You know, a ball hawk type player, make big plays, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, Micah Hyde. I think of Micah Hyde when I think of free safety. I know Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer were interchangeable, but for the most part, Hyde wasn't that in the box safety. He was more of that. I mean, I always think of that Patriots game where he picked that ball off from, I don't know if it was Drake May or whoever it was, Mac Jones, I think at the time in the playoff game, where it was a really good pass by Mac Jones in the end zone, and he just picked it off as if he was the wide receiver. Like, just an unbelievable play. I mean, he was just so good with his hands. Taylor Rapp, not a free safety,
No.
not a ball hawk. Cole Bishop, not truly a ball hawk, still more of an in the box guy, at least for now. That's what he did in college. And he did get burnt on that long play in Houston last year. So I think he's probably the closest they have at this point. But I mean, even DeMar Hamlin, when he was playing the year that he had that heart issue or that cardiac arrest, he was playing strong safety, I believe, covering for Jordan Poyer. So like that was his thing. It was in the run game. It was never. And if you watched him last year, he's not a ball hawk. He's not a great coverage guy. I think that's one of his weaknesses, actually. But
Cam Lewis might be the best free safety, but he's really the backup nickel.
yeah. Exactly. So the Bills did sign Derek Forrest, but again, like not a great ball hawk. I mean, it's just you're betting on traits at this point, hoping that he is as good as Micah Hyde, and he's never been as good as Micah Hyde, right? So just a lot of inconsistency there. I think what's going to happen, if I were to wager a bet, is that it's going to be Taylor Rapp at strong safety, and Cole Bishop's going to become the free safety, and he's going to take his lumps. DeMar Hamlin's going to be the first backup. And, you know, not that Cole Bishop doesn't have good deep coverage. He just hasn't had to prove it, really. That's not really what Utah's defense did when he was at BYU. It was Utah. Yeah, Utah. That he was there. So it just wasn't something he did and not something he was required to do. So it's still unproven if he can do it, but he's a hell of an athlete, so I do suspect him to be a starter. But unless you come across one of these guys like that you're going to talk about, I think it's possible that those are the safety. So, John, I think you wanted to talk about first about Georgia safety Malachi Starks, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead, my guy.
Sorry, I was reading the stuff. Oh.
Yeah, yeah. 6'1", 197
All
pounds.
right. Yes, he's. Oh, let's watch the highlights. Yeah, so he's good. He's great in coverage. Good instincts. He can tackle. Like, he just. I think he's the clear number 2 in this draft, and I'm not entirely sure he falls to us, but I think it's close enough where we can talk about him. Where if he does fall, it should be in consideration, despite some of the bigger needs on the defensive line and that corner.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at a guy that has like great football IQ. He has ability to play multiple positions, strong, free slot. You know, the Bills love that. I mean, they love that about Poyer and Hyde, that they could sometimes interchange him, right? I just mentioned that. So I think that's like, he's not a huge guy. Like, he's not big. 6'1",
Great
200.
instincts. Great instincts. Yeah, he can, man zone.
Yeah, he's not an elite athlete, so his athletic measurables aren't great. But like you said, he makes up for it with football IQ. So he played more deep safety than box safety throughout his career at Georgia. I mean, you're talking about the SEC, right? His coverage grade is okay at 72.1, above average, not great. His run defense grade is, 85.6, so it's very close to being really good, like the best out there, elite almost. So he's looking around the 20 time frame, so probably not available for the Buffalo Bills when they pick at 30 unless they trade up. But like you said, if he starts to drop, maybe the Bills decide that they can maybe one of their guys at defensive tackle or corner, their guys are gone, right? So they make a look to him to move up, or that's something
I agree. I was realistically thinking 20s, but we're at 30, so if he does drop, I think that should be in consideration.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're just mentioning, some of the scouting reports say, elite ball skills, sound tackler with coordination and strength, low missed tackle rate, long wingspan for pass breakups. Bills personnel love longer arms in certain areas. He can be too aggressive at sometimes, although, his judgment was really off in 2024 compared to 2023. It's odd that he had a better 2023 season than 2024 by different stats and metrics. But I mean, he's a playmaker. He plays in the SEC for one of the best teams in the SEC. So I like that. I like that idea, John. Now, like you said, if you trade up for him, if he somehow falls, I'm good with that. So let's go into your next prospect, which is Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame.
Yeah, really like this guy. Like, if he falls to the Bills in the second round, I think it might be a no-brainer. He's very versatile. He can play in different areas. Great instincts, great anticipation. He can make big plays. I think he'd be a steal in the second round, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you're talking about like areas where, Malachi Starks isn't. I mean, Malachi Starks is like a really good tackler, right? Xavier Watts, not so great of a tackler, but he's much better in coverage, right? So, when they come up with these, just thinking about, I was listening to some podcasts about some late round sleepers trying to prepare for this and getting some ideas. And they're like, when we put together these boards, we're just thinking in general, like, what's the best safety, right? In general, Xavier Watts is probably a better safety for the Buffalo Bills as far as stats go, as far as, his coverage, where he plays deep safety. I mean, he's your ideal free safety. He's a ball hawking safety. He's probably one of the best ones in this class. Like that kind of fits on that realm, right? So, great athlete. I mean, I would love this pick. He was at one point down into like the third round in mock drafts, and now he's back up to like the top of the second round. So, is there a possibility that he falls? Is there a possibility that the Bills trade back and maybe use a pick on him? I wouldn't be upset at that. I like this pick, John. I think it'd be an upgrade. I mean, both guys you mentioned, I think, are instant upgrades over what the Bills currently have on their roster for free safety. So I like it because eventually, if Cole Bishop is truly a strong safety after this year, I think Taylor Rapp only signed a 2-year deal, so I think he's done after this season. I'm not 100% sure, but then Cole Bishop slides into that strong safety role after this season, or maybe during this season, depending on how he competes, at safety. So now you have your two long-term safeties. You have a guy like Xavier Watts here, free safety, and you have your strong safety in Cole Bishop for the time being. So I like that idea a lot.
Yeah.
Can I tell you about a guy that I like?
Sure.
I was reading about him and I was watching some highlights. Actually don't have his stuff pulled up. I'll look at it real quick. I'll pull it up while we're doing this. Let's see. Oh no, I do have him. I do have him brought up. He's actually one of my day three players that I really like a lot. There we go. Kevin Winston out of Penn State. Now, this is a guy. Here's a guy that missed most of 2024 with a partially torn ACL, right? And in 2023, the way that he'd been playing, the way that his coverage was, and how good he was at playing free safety, like this is a guy. Here's a guy that would have probably gone easily in the first round if he had kept that same level of play or played better in the 2024 season. So we talk about the way the Bills roster is set up. Let's say that this guy, he's been trending in the end of the second round, early third round area. Let's say, I'm sorry, end of third round. That's where he's trending right now. End of third round. Possibly top of fourth round. If you're looking for a guy like this that you can potentially hold on to for a year and not have to start him, either start him off on the PUP again or put him on IR for the entire season. Like this is a guy that might be incredible for you in 2026. And I hate thinking ahead as far as, drafting for 2026, but I mean, this guy might be that good that you could use him in that role.
They did that with Willis McGahee, right?
Yes. Was he a first round pick or a second round pick? I can't remember.
He was a first round pick.
See, they used a whole first round pick on him, right? Oh, another one of your favorite first round pick running backs of the drought, right? I forgot about him.
I mean, he was still good, but it's like the value and how much worth it was. Sorry, go ahead.
I think he would be. So Xavier Watts, I mentioned, is one of the best ball hawks in this class that you brought up. If he played this year at the level that he did in 2023, he would probably be the best ball hawk in this class, next to Xavier Watts, either above him or right below him. Great intelligence, outstanding when doing man coverage this year, versatile to win, every safety in the slot, in the box. I mean, versatility is there. Like, let's say you have to use him for whatever reason in the slot. Let's say they go to 4 wide receiver personnel and you have Taron Johnson on one side. All of a sudden, do you want Tre'Davious White in the slot, or potentially do you put Kevin Winston Jr. in the slot? If he's ready, if the health checks out. So that might actually work in the Bills' favor for a guy. So I don't like drafting for 2026, but maybe for a day 3 pick for a 4th round pick, absolutely. In my opinion. John, what do you think of that idea?
I go either way. If you're saying that he's not going to play all
real quick. I think he'll get some playing time in. I believe he had the issue with his how many games? He was only 2 games into last season. So, you know, as Bills fans, we know it takes at least a year to recover from ACLs. So again, you know, maybe starting off on the pup, or miss the entire season with IR or something like that. So uh, it's going to be interesting. So one thing I didn't mention earlier before we get into dream draft scenario stuff like this is these are the picks that the Bills have in the first round or in the entire draft. They have a first round pick at number 30, a second round pick at 56 that they got from the Texans, a second round pick at 62, no third round picks, a fourth round pick at 109, a fourth round pick at 132. So 2 fourth round picks, 3 fifth round picks, one at 169, one at 170 and 173, and then 2 6 round picks at 177 and 206. So no third round picks and no seventh round picks. But within this span of round 5 to the beginning of round 6, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 picks within 8 slots, within 8 spots, which is kind of crazy, or 9 spots, I guess you could say. So there's definitely some wheeling and dealing. The teams that I was looking at, John, for the Bills to possibly trade with, is you're looking at the Broncos only have 5 draft picks. So they're picking number 18, number 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Number 20, they're picking the Panthers have very few picks. They're picking at number 8. And then who was the last one? The Panthers, the Broncos. Oh, the Vikings. The Vikings are picking at number 24. So these are 3 potential trade partners that each round you're looking at, they're looking to get more picks because they only have 5. The Bills have 10. So could the Bills move up to the Vikings at 24? So from 30 to 24 and lose a couple of draft picks? Absolutely. I think that's a possibility. Would they trade all the way up to the Broncos at 20? Less likely. Less likely. Even with the Vikings, even as high as the Vikings, I'd say it's probably less than 30% that it happens.
I wonder if they end up with a third round pick at some point with all those picks.
Yes, agreed.
Either trade down or trade up or whatever. It kind of stinks that they lost it to the Amari Cooper thing that didn't work out. I know he got hurt and everything. Keon got hurt too, and so did Curtis Samuel. So I mean, we're all kind of hoping that that's the reason why none of those 3 things panned out. But maybe they end up with a third round pick somehow.
Yeah, is it possible that they take one of those second round picks and trade back to get another third round pick? I think that's possible. Or maybe they take one of their fourth round picks and trade up for a third round pick. I think that there's definitely a possibility. Or maybe they trade back from their first round pick and pick up a third round pick that way, right? What do you think's more likely, John? This is the time to talk about it. Only a little while before the draft. What do you think's more likely? The Bills trade up in day 1 or 2, or the Bills trade back in day 1 or 2, or both?
I mean, geez, you could see either way. Because like 2 years ago, they traded up 2 spots in the first round to get Kincaid, and then last year they traded out of the first round to get Keon.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 50-50.
I'm thinking with the amount of picks they have.
I think they're going to keep those first 3 picks and try to do something with those 4 picks in 9 spots that you're talking about, or 8 spots that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think when all's said and done, I get this feeling that they only use 8 draft picks this season. I don't know why this draft. I don't know why I think that in my head, only using 8 draft picks. It's because I was looking at the roster and they only have like 6 or 7 positions or so that they could actually have competition for starters, or a guy that's drafted could potentially come in and steal a 53-man roster spot potentially. So I can't see them drafting a lot more than that. But then again, if they're drafting 8 players, I think one of them is going to be a punter too. So
yeah, like if you like split everything in half and you just look at the offense and forget about the James Cook situation. The only position they could possibly think about adding is receiver, right?
That's I think more than that, but go ahead, continue.
I get depth and okay they lost more
Omari Cooper, Mac
maybe
Collins.
maybe a third tight end. They did bring in Josh Palmer and Keon's gonna be the 2 no matter what. Or I say 2, but because Shakir's their best receiver, but like Keon's gonna be on the outside no matter what.
Mhm.
It's gonna be like Palmer or somebody.
Yeah, it's gonna be Palmer on the other side.
So receiver is the only one. Everything
Yeah.
else. Cook.
This is what I think.
Tight end.
I think there's a possibility they could draft a position on the offense that's not wide receiver that could potentially be a day one starter. Do you want to hear what that is?
Well, could be a running back, I suppose.
No, I'm not thinking running back. I'm thinking along the offensive line.
Are you thinking like Edwards or something?
I'm thinking, guard in general. I was going through grades, pass blocking and run blocking grades, and Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown are so good that you forget the rest of them really aren't as good. Like Deion Dawkins and Spencer Brown had the best pass blocking grades and the best run blocking grades of all 5 positions. And then after that, as you would suspect, Connor McGovern is third, basically in both areas. But David Edwards and Osiris Torrance trade back and forth with both the worst pass blocking grades and run blocking grades. Like they're okay. Like they're not terrible. Don't get me wrong, but they
also have a lot of potential in the depth players. So here's a trivia question for you. They have 13 players on the roster on the offensive line. I get that includes tackle, guard, and center, but like, what position has the next most players?
Oh man. What position has the most players at the position, like depth wise?
Yeah, like the top to down.
13 for the offensive line?
Right. But
that's a lot of positions. That's like 3 different positions.
Yeah, so it is a little unfair. So
the whole defense.
You can combine the defensive line, you can combine receiver, tight end, and you can combine corner and safety. How about that?
Oh man, I can't think of anyone that has more.
None of them are over 13 when you combine them.
I was gonna say because I know the defensive line is only at like 9, I think, right now. Or maybe it's at more. I can't think. Defensive line is the only thing I can think of. They have more?
Defensive line is 10.
Okay.
Corner safety is 11.
What? Really? Okay.
And then receiver tight end is 11.
Man, you're just grouping anything together. You're just like pass catchers.
Well, I felt bad after I said. I was like, well, yeah, that's not a fair question because offensive line has 3 things combined technically.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of depth there.
Yep.
You're right. They could. I would not be surprised if they drafted an offensive lineman at some point because it's an important position and you could always improve.
Yeah, I was
thinking from like I was kind of like a sheer. They could use a number one or 2 receiver depending on who it is, and if Keon, comes to fruition in his second year, and then you look at the defense in comparison, and you got question marks all over the place: edge, defensive tackle, future linebackers, and then corner and safety, and punter. And to go off the special teams returner.
Yeah.
They were a little bit better last year with Codrington, but has been an issue in recent years, the special teams. So not just on returning, but covering kicks and things like that. And there's rule changes now and more things to factor in. That's why they brought in Chenault. I don't know if that's going to work out, but
Yeah, it was a stab. We'll see. We'll see if that ends up being anything. John Roberts says Granger is being trained as a guard. That's Cedric Van Perrin Granger, the center out of Georgia last year that they drafted. I think it was like the 5th round. I love that pick.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes
but
sense.
yeah, if he's being trained as guard, that could be potentially be hopefully, depth if nothing else. But hopefully, maybe he can vie for a position. I remember liking David Edwards, but I don't think he is one of those guys where you look at and you're like, oh, that's like we're good there. Then he's no Wyatt Teller.
He's not
So
your best offensive lineman for sure. I mean, he's probably their worst starter, but that's
potentially, yeah.
not a bad. That's not a bad thing if David Edwards is your worst starting offensive lineman.
Yeah, exactly. So it's there's going to be one no matter what somewhere on the roster. I'm okay with it being David Edwards. I'm just saying I think that they could potentially upgrade and get a starter on day 3 that could start over this guy. So
Okay.
so John,
Fair.
I'm going to go over. Go ahead. What'd you say?
Fair. I said fair.
Fair. Let's say I'm going to share some of my favorite day 3 guys that are looking to be drafted in the 4th round or later, maybe potentially at the end of the 3rd round, but most of these guys are looking 4th round or later. I'm going to start off with Colorado State Rams wide receiver Torrey Horton. Now, Torrey Horton is 6'3", 185 pounds. He just is one of those guys that doesn't stand out from you from an athletic standpoint, but he's just a really good receiver. I mean, he has a super long catch radius. I mentioned him being 6'3". He has an 86th percentile contested catch rate and a catch percentage above 92% in each of the past 2 seasons. Here he is, like throwing a touchdown, which is cool. That's pretty sweet. He's super athletic. His biggest knocks on him, like he can kind of do anything. He can kind of, play a little bit of slot, play a little bit of outside. He's just not. If this guy had 4.4 speed, he would be a 1st round pick for sure. If he was 220 pounds, he would be a 1st round pick, but he's not. John, remember when we were going over wide receivers and you were picking like some really cool guys like Alec Ayomanor, which was like, 6'2", 220. Like there was a certain size that you were looking for, right? Whether it was in the 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round, right? Like this guy is not that guy. But what he lacks in, speed, long speed, and weight and size, he makes up for in just his ability to catch the ball. So he's able to get open.
When he lacks in everything, he can catch it.
No. Like what he lacks in weight and long speed, he makes up for in great hands. He makes up for in short speed quickness, route running. So you were talking about like Z receivers like the Josh Palmers. Like, why not get another guy that could potentially play that position and get open, right? So I like that. He kind of has, separation is something that the Bills, I feel like, really lacked last year with all their pass catchers. And this is a guy that gives them that. So he's currently going in, where is he? Actually in the 100s. So that's, 4th round. 4th round. So I like that fit for the Buffalo Bills. I mean, just added depth. If he falls to the Bills, sure, and they can't get another defensive player, but I would not be upset if the Bills ended up drafting Torrey Horton.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's go to another one of my guys. Now, this one, along that same vein, is Jalen Royals out of Utah State. So, John, you were looking at wide receivers. Did you think about him at all when you were going through Utah State?
I did, and I am actually trying to look through my spreadsheet here. I'm trying to get to the receiver tabs where I had him.
Well, I think he didn't fit the height. Sorry, go ahead.
I found him. Yeah, right. So, like when I was looking at guys, I was looking at either the height possession type receiver or a guy that can stretch the field, because those are 2 things that they need. No, so he's got 4.4 speed, right?
This is one of those guys though. Here's a guy that doesn't have again why he's a day 3 pick or a late day 2 pick is because he doesn't have that ridiculous athleticism. He's 6 foot 205 pounds. Most of the guys that you looked at were much bigger than that. He's one of those guys that can play. He can play. He's not a vertical separator. He is really good though after the tackle. So we talked about creating separation. I mean, this guy has like very good yak ability. We'll see that. I mean, you just saw that in the highlight just there. You thought he was tackled. He ends up getting 6 more yards out of a tackle, right? Out of being tackled. Here he is catching a slant, taking it to the house or a bubble screen. He has good enough athleticism, but definitely not. You don't look at this guy and you're like, oh, this is again first round pick if he had all these things, right? He's only 22, so he's not old, but he's a really good possession receiver. I mean, when I think about this, I think about potentially another sort of like I don't know, like a Joshua Palmer sort of playmaker, right? And a guy that's, before when I was looking at Torrey Horton, like he had a little bit of Joshua Palmer plus Keon Coleman. I think this is a guy that could be an upgrade over Joshua Palmer eventually. I mean, just looking at his stats, I mean, he had 839 yards, 81 targets at Utah State. Only played 7 games. So there might be issues there, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, he's going in the 70s, late 70s. So end of round 3, early round 4. So he doesn't have great athleticism, but he's a great possession receiver, and he can get some yak for you. So he's not a bad athlete, but he's not definitely like a guy that's just amazing acceleration. Excuse me. So the guy that we're seeing a lot of on like a lot of people's favorite day 3 sleepers here. And here's a good one that I thought was interesting. Actually, Joe Buscaglia brought him up. This is... let me make sure I have him. Did I turn it off by mistake? Okay. Bryce Cable-Dew. So when I was looking at guards, I was looking at, guys that I thought were basically upgrades over David Edwards and Osiris Torrance potentially. B tackle. Bryce Cable-Dew is a tech Kansas guy that has size, length, but he's not an definitely not athlete, but that's kind of what you're looking for in guard. And sometimes you're worried about, these guys being 6'5" and being guard too. Well, that's not an issue with Josh Allen, one of the tallest quarterbacks in the NFL. Excuse me. He played mostly at left tackle and right tackle, so he kind of swung between both of them, but mostly left tackle. Good pass blocker, good run blocker, good in the zone blocking. And I think it's just one of those things where you look at him, he's a day 3 pick, like in the 250s range. So you're talking, what is 250? That's basically end of the 7th round, right? Because 252, I think, is Mr. Irrelevant, or 255, or one of those guys. So end of the 7th round, you could get this guy very cheap and potentially plug him in as a guard with Aaron Cromer giving him some coaching. So I like that. By the way, Joe's latest mock draft is really good. He mentions Bryce Cable-Dew out of Kansas. John, this is by far my favorite day 3 pick, not just because I'm a UB alumni, but because this guy is just unbelievable as far as what he's done. But it's just been he just doesn't have the size, and he just didn't play at a really good conference. So UB alumni Sean Dolak, linebacker, has an RAS score of 9.0. And the only reason he's not a 10, John, is because he's only, 6'1", 225 pounds. But when I talk to you about a linebacker John, that can cover, that can tackle, that can play the run well, that can play coverage. He's an amazing coverage linebacker. He's an amazing run defending linebacker. He's actually good against the pass rush too, oddly enough. Um, when I think about an undersized linebacker that has great instincts, John, what Bills players does that make you think of?
I can't remember which one of them was undersized.
Matt Milano. It makes you think of Matt Milano from Boston College when he was drafted. Some people thought he was going to be a safety, ended up being the Bills' weak side linebacker, and the rest is history. Great instincts. What you're looking for is great instincts, speed. I mean, he has everything. Like I said, if he was 6'3", 250 pounds, he would be a first round, potentially a first round or second round linebacker. He just is missing those, and he just didn't play in a great conference. Right now, his average draft position is in the 200, so you're looking at day 6th round. But I would absolutely take a flyer on Sean
If he can,
Dolak. I
if he can
hope
play special
he becomes
teams,
a
I'm all for it.
Oh, for sure. He's going to automatically going to be a special teamer. And John Roberts just mentioned Sean Dolak had a local pro day with Buffalo, and yeah, the Bills were there attending that as they normally do. So I really, really hope. Hey, you know that rumor that was for that linebacker of UCLA as a day 1 pick? Like, this should be the rumor that the Bills are going to take him with a 5th round pick or something. One of their 3 5th round picks, and I'd absolutely draft a little bit higher for a guy like him because I think he could be eventually the Matt Milano of the Buffalo Bills. So give him a year because you got Matt Milano for another year. Get Sean Dolak. I mean, then you have Sean Dolak and Joe Andreessen. You got 2 UB guys in the system. I love it. And not just because he's a UB guy. I went to UB. I'm an alumni. They were terrible. They were god awful when I went to school there. They didn't get good until I graduated. But it's exciting to see another local product get a chance. He wasn't invited to the combine, unfortunately, but he did post some really good athletic grades. So, John, this is my favorite, last favorite day 3 pick. So, I know you like day 3 guys, John. Any thoughts on these, or you good with those guys on day 3? I mean, you're pretty much good with anyone on day 3, right?
You sold me. You sold me.
John, before we talk about draft day scenarios, like dream draft scenarios, one thing I want to talk about is this tweet that I was tagged in on social media. If you're not following us, please follow us at CTW Pod, like Circling the Wagons Pod. It was from Apex NFL. They said, what would you pick for your Buffalo Bills draft? And they did. If you're watching us on YouTube or Facebook or wherever, you'll see 3 different mock drafts. The first one is in round 1, you get defensive tackle Walter Nolan. In round 2, you get defensive or cornerback Darian Porter out of Iowa State. And in the other round 2 pick, you get JT Tumalau from Ohio State, defensive end there. And then in the second mock draft in B, you get Luther Burden III as a wide receiver in the first round, Vernon Broughton, the defensive tackle out of Texas in the second round, and then Donovan Izaraku, the defensive end out of Boston College in the second round. And then in the third mock draft C, there is, in the first round, you get cornerback Trey Amos out of Ole Miss, which John did a breakdown for. You have Savion Williams, wide receiver out of TCU, which John did a breakdown for. And then in the other round 2 pick, you get Oluwafemi Aladejo from UCLA, the linebacker out of there. So, John, looking at these 3 mock drafts, which one do you like the best?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm leaning the third one. Although it is disappointing there's not a defensive lineman in it, but we did talk about 2 of those 3 players.
I got to be honest, I didn't like any of them, but if I was to lean more, I definitely lean towards what you said. Trey Amos, the cornerback, Savion Williams, the wide receiver. Of course, we were talking about Savion Williams possibly being, I mean, I guess he could be a round 2 pick, right, for the Buffalo Bills out of TCU. I was thinking more round 3, I think, if the Bills traded back, but I'd be okay with that. And I don't like linebacker in the second round. I'm just not a fan of that. I know he's really good. but I think there's definitely a lot more needs that the Bills could take advantage of. Especially, I know linebacker's weak, so maybe that's the time to get it, and you can get better defensive tackles later on. Um, but this kind of leads into our draft scenario, John. One of the things that I'm looking for, why I like the Trey Amos pick, is because Trey Amos, so Jahdae Barron probably won't be around. Trey Amos is pretty much like the cutoff of that tier of cornerbacks that I would take in the first round. Is that kind of where you see it as well, or would you take someone else in the first round as well? I know you're looking at your
Yeah, I'm furiously
spreadsheet.
scrolling to where my cornerback list was. So it was weird for me. Like, there was I mean, if they can't get Travis Hunter, I mean,
They won't.
no, I know. But so like I had a couple guys that were high, and then like I had a bunch of guys that like they could be anywhere from rounds 1 or 2 or 3. We talked about Siobhan Ravel. I don't know. Did we talk about Maxwell Harrison?
A little bit. I don't think we mentioned him specifically on the podcast.
Like,
Would you take him with a first round pick?
Potentially. Like maybe a Benjamin Morrison drops, maybe. There's a bunch of guys. Darian Porter.
Joey Hatch brought up Maxwell Harrison. I didn't put that comment on before, but super fastest corner in the draft for sure. Great ability, playing instincts. He's just the big knock on Maxwell Harrison is, I believe, his size. I think he's 5'10". I'm looking at his size right now.
I think I wrote down 5'11".
No, he's 6'1". I'm sorry, he's 6'1", 186.
Wow, that's quite a range.
So yeah, so great. I think his biggest knock on him at this point is he's not super. So he's tall, but he's not built like he's 183, right? So you're not 186. You're not talking about a guy. Usually, what we're looking is the 190s. For cornerbacks. So I heard that he was saying on Instagram he's about 194, but again, do you still run 4.3 speed at 194, whereas you did it at 186, right? So potentially. So I know that he's not a very I guess one of the knocks on him was that, it's just he gets a little grabby at that level, which again isn't a huge issue. I think they can coach that out of him, but he has good IQ, but he's not like he doesn't really go for anticipation of the routes. Like he's just, instinct is not 100% there for a guy that you'd want necessarily in the first round, I guess. So would you take him in the first round?
I think it really depends on who's at that point.
I think where I come is I want either. Let's see. I'll probably take. I know Jahdae Barron out of Texas probably won't be there. Trey Amos is the last cornerback I'll take in the first round at 30, and if he's not there, then I want a defensive tackle. Like that's kind of how I want this draft to.
How many corners do you think are going to go in the first round?
I think most drafts right now have Travis Hunter, Jahdae Barron, Will Johnson going in the first round. 3, those first 3 going ahead of Trey Amos. So I'd be okay with, man.
What about Morrison? John Robert mentioned that. I mentioned that earlier.
And
Siobhan Ravel. Or is he like a second?
I like Siobhan Ravel a lot better than
or Azariah Thomas.
I like Azariah Thomas a lot more. I think Ben Morrison just scares me a little bit. I mean, I don't think he's as good in coverage, especially in zone coverage where the Bills play most of their defense, as Siobhan Ravel and Ezra Thomas, like you mentioned, but Ezra Thomas was more of a man guy. Uh, so that's kind of tough because, I think he has good size. Ezra Thomas is 6'2", 198. So he's not even 21 yet. So there's a lot to like about him, but I like them both more than Ben Morrison at this point. I know that's kind of crazy to say, and I know that I'm probably one of the only people that thinks that, but Revel, I think, would be better if he could start day one. But
Yeah,
what do you
I think my
take?
point. I think my point is that it gets really muddled in that range of guys that could go in round 1 or 2.
Well, I think after Trey Amos, it gets muddled, in my opinion. That's where I see a tier
I
drop
do like
off, I
Amos a
guess.
lot, but I think he's kind of in that mix. But he's not like a clear cut ahead of all those other guys necessarily. I think he might be, but I think it's close.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. I guess that's just where I have it. You're right. It does get muddled. For me, it gets much
But I
worse
love
after.
if they took him with their first pick, I'd be happy.
Yeah, if they took Trey Amos, I
Not
think
gonna
I think
complain.
I would feel like it's a good value, and they got a good position of need. John, when I look at that, if they can't get, at least that's where my tier ends at Trey Amos. If they can't, then I want defensive tackle, and my defensive tackle like tiers go. They won't get Mason Graham, obviously, but it goes Kenneth Grant and Derek Harmon are the next two that I would consider getting for the Buffalo Bills. If both of those guys are gone when the
I don't
Bills
think
pick,
Grant's gonna be there.
dude, it's funny because he is the most drafted player to the Buffalo Bills in mock drafts right now.
I can't believe that.
Which it's gotten even more because last time you and I talked, it was who's that safety out of South Carolina, Nicky Minwari. It was Nicky Minwari before, and now it's
He's not going to be there either. That's why I didn't talk about him earlier because I didn't think there's any way he was going to be there.
So Kenneth Grant. Kenneth Grant is who I would take, and if Kenneth Grant isn't there, then I would take Derek Harmon. So it's kind of like you get two different flavors. Like Kenneth Grant is an elite run stuffer, and he has some pass rushing moves, but he needs to develop more. So instant one technique defensive tackle for you from day one. But can he get to the level where he can also rush the passer? I don't know. Whereas you have Derek Harmon, who's a great pass rusher at defensive tackle, more of a 3 technique than a 1 technique, but you can from day one you can bring him in on obvious passing downs, instead of Daquan Jones there to rush the passer along with Ed Oliver. He just needs to work on his early down run stuffing, right? So he's played 1 tech. He's just much better at 3 tech. So I like both of those guys. I think they both have things to work on, but they would be an immediate upgrade to the Bills' defensive line. And they'd, whereas I look at Kenneth Grant as allowing Ed Oliver to eat more and allowing the linebackers to play a little bit better. Derek Harmon's a guy that you immediately get some really good pass rush out of, which is another thing the Bills need at defensive tackle. So that's where my tiers go for defensive tackle. So I don't want, Darius Alexander, TJ Sanders, Tyleik Williams. I don't want those guys in the first round. I would be okay with them in the second round, but not a first round pick. Walter Nolan, I don't want in the first round. Just not what I'm looking for in defensive tackle. Not what I think the Bills should be looking for either, and I don't think they are. So,
yeah,
I like. John Roberts just said Derek Harmon's stock may drop because of his hurt shoulder. Like I did hear that. I did hear he's dropping in drafts. Just listening to The Athletic before we were talking, and they were going over the 26 through 32 draft picks, like basically picking for each team, and they're like Derek Harmon just keeps dropping, and it was an interesting conversation. And I wasn't thinking he was a pick at first when we did defensive tackles. And the more I think about it, the more I think that his upside is so good as pass rush that you can overlook the fact that he can take on double teams and he can clog up holes, but that's not his forte, but he could potentially do both really well eventually. What do you think about that? If they don't go at that level, I don't know if you have a tier of defensive tackle, but that's what I'm going to be looking for. If those 3 guys that I mentioned are gone, then I want them to almost trade back,
or take one of those corners that you would want, right?
Potentially. I mean, but that's where I see the tier draft. I would want them to trade back because I think the tier is is below that. Then you're looking at a second round tier for those guys. So if they trade back like 4 spots and they get one of those corners or defensive tackles I mentioned after that, or a few spots back, then I could swallow it better. I just don't necessarily think they're worth it, in my opinion.
All right, well, what if they just drafted Abdul Carter and just be done with it?
That's another thing. So, like, let's say if they don't get the defensive tackle or cornerback in the first round, we went over edge rushers. Like, would I be upset if they went and drafted, let's say, like you
Let's
said,
be
Abdul
realistic.
Carter? I don't think that's going to happen.
Let's
Maybe
be
a
realistic. James
Donovan
Pierce
Mizraku.
fall? Can James Pierce fall?
James Pierce Jr., I would 100% take. I know that he's not a great run stuffer, but again, he starts off as your pass rushing, one of your pass rushing defensive ends, on third
Yeah,
down, maybe he subs
sure.
in for Joey Bosa or something, and then you're talking about, he works in as an edge run defender as well. He's not great at that, but he could work on it.
Yeah, it's not as easy as it was during the drought where we only had to like grade like the top like 10 guys. Now it's like you're down to 30, and it's like, well, it really depends who all the other teams are.
I mean, you just have to look at our draft needs from before to know what we would go with if the best defensive tackle and the best cornerback aren't around. Go to edge defender, we'd go potentially wide receiver or safety. The guys that you mentioned, John, I think I'd be okay with them being taken at safety.
Oh my gosh, remember last year? Who did the Eagles take? DeJong Cooper.
Yeah,
I was all over
Cooper
him
DeJean.
last year pre-draft. I'm like, oh, the Bills should take this.
Cooper DeJean. What did he go the third round? Something like that.
I don't remember when, but I remember the Bills had a chance at him.
Oh yeah.
It didn't take it. Yeah. Oh well.
So my other scenarios, if they don't draft a defensive tackle and cornerback in the first round, that's my dream scenario. I really hope they attack one of those positions in the first round with one of those 3 or 4 guys I mentioned. If not, I hope it's a day 2 pick for sure for both of those positions. I hope they double dip at cornerback. We mentioned that earlier with the Trey White signing. I think they could still double dip at cornerback because, John, potentially at corner, they could get another backup at slot corner, or also you're looking at a guy that can convert from cornerback to safety. So this is a deep cornerback class. Let's take advantage of that a little bit.
Or even a guy that can return kicks as as well.
Are you talking like a Terrence McGee, Leotis McKelvin sort of cornerback?
Yeah. Let's do it.
I love it. Day 3. So
Whatever
one on day 1 and one on day 3. I like it. And then I always mention, so I don't have it here, but I always want them to draft an offensive lineman and a wide receiver or a pass catcher in the draft each season because you have Josh Allen. Take advantage of him. You protect him and you give him a weapon to throw to every single season. I mentioned here, so the number 3 does, I must have miswrote that, safety and wide receiver on day 3. I do want a safety and wide receiver on day 3, but I really want an offensive lineman and a wide receiver drafted somewhere in the draft with one of their 10 picks if they end up keeping all 10. But even if they keep 8 picks, I want 2 of those picks to be one of those players each. That's my dream scenario. And yeah, obviously safety would be a great pick somewhere along the line. And then, we mentioned all the rest. John, what do you have for your draft day dream scenario?
I mean, for me, it's pretty easy. It's just having your biggest needs fall to you in your highest tiers.
Oh, good one. Okay, all right, cool. End of podcast.
I mean, it's essentially what you said. I mean, you're taking into account what their biggest needs are and what tiers they might be at. We're looking more at it positionally first and tiered second. Maybe it might be worthwhile exercise. Now we're too close to draft this year, but maybe for a episode next year, maybe look at it from a tiered perspective first, and then put like all the positions in the tiers, and then go, okay, so what are their biggest needs in these tiers?
Man, that would have been nice to know before the podcast, John. You're just coming up with all these great notes
You
for what.
just gave me the idea now. It's not my.
No, cool, John. That sounds great. That sounds like an amazing podcast we'll do next
So
year.
next year, guys.
Next year.
We'll talk about that.
So yeah, I agree. So if I was to do like a dream scenario, we're either doing, like I mentioned, defensive tackle, cornerback. I'm either getting Kenneth Grant in the first round and Siobhan Revel Jr. in the second round, or getting Trey Amos in the first round and like Tyleek Williams in the second round. I think that would be like a dream scenario for me. Or maybe if you go, and then maybe like, let's say with the second round pick, let's say I get, cap off another need right there. How about JT Tumalao from Ohio State? Now all of a sudden you have your defensive tackle, starting defensive tackle, or a guy that's going to rotate in heavily in his first season. You have a cornerback that could potentially be a long-term starter, Siobhan Revel Jr., and then you have an edge defender that could be put in rotationally and then could eventually take over for Joey Bosa when his contract expires after this season. So that's kind of how I look at it. That would be my ideal draft if I had to pick. I mean, would I take a guy like? Would I hope a guy like, let's see, Brady Swinson falls to you in the second round? Absolutely, I would take him from LSU. I don't think that'll happen necessarily, but where's he being drafted? Hold on. Why am I not seeing him? Here it is. He's being drafted right now in the 50s. So what is that? Yeah, that's actually their second round pick. So if he fell to them, I'd be okay with that too.
I have
I
another idea.
Oh, wait, real quick. John Roberts says nothing in the draft will happen like we want. It absolutely won't. Thank you, John, for putting this in perspective. My dream scenario is exactly what it is. Just a complete dream. It will not happen that way. It's all the players that I want in the first tier are going to be drafted by like 21 or 22 for the Bills even get a chance to trade up. Go ahead.
Oh no, it's another idea for next year. We should have like a mock draft contest for the first round.
Oh, who can have a better mock draft? Ooh, that's a good one. Another great idea, John.
Yep. Write it down because we're gonna forget.
Yeah, I'll totally write this down. I'm just gonna listen to this podcast again next year before the draft. See what was good and what wasn't good about this. Cool, John. So I guess that kind of leaves this at the end of the podcast. I mean, it's going to be an exciting night. I hope you guys are all going to be able to watch and stay up for it because the Bills probably aren't going to pick till like what time does the draft start? 8:00?
It's like 11 something.
Yeah, the Bills are going to be in the 11. Yeah, 11 something. So
Make they stay at that pick.
yeah, exactly. So cool. Anything else, John, before we talk to the listeners and viewers again after the draft?
No, I just think it's funny how like we put our draft needs list together and it's like 8, 9, 10, whatever player positions of need, right? And every team does this, or every fan does this for their own team. And then we get to August and it's like we're set. We don't have any needs. Training camp looks great. And there's been no snaps between April and August. We're like, oh, we went from like, oh, we have 10 needs to like, we're all set. This is great.
Gotcha. We've never been a more complete team than this season for sure. We'll definitely think that after the draft. They probably sign another
like
player
we're in
too.
the AFC Championship game. We still put like 9 needs down, like that we are strongly considering for our 10
Yeah.
picks. It's like, well, I mean, we did make it to the AFC Championship, and we're supposed to be. It's supposed to be a year of what do they call it? A transition, or a mini rebuild year, and we still were able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this and you're right. It's a mini rebuild. I think that the way that this goes, like, it's almost definitely going to be a cornerback, a defensive tackle, or defensive end. Like, it's going to be one of our top 4 needs, defensive end or safety. Like, it's going to be one of those players because it's not going to be a wide receiver unless a guy like Matthew Golden out of Texas falls, which he won't. He'll probably be a top 10, top 15 pick. Like those guys, and then none of the other wide receivers really are what the Bills are kind of looking for necessarily, or at least fit the scheme that well.
Defense is
So
guaranteed for that first pick unless something crazy happens.
yeah. So I don't think like I can't see any other pick being cornerback, defensive tackle, defensive end, or safety. Those are the only 4 options in my opinion. They won't go running back in the first round. I mentioned wide receiver won't happen. They obviously won't go punter in the first round. They won't go linebacker. I'm almost positive they won't go linebacker based on, the rumor that we saw earlier. And kick returner, like I mean, no one drafts a kick returner in the first round. So except the
But
Dolphins.
didn't Miami do that?
Yeah,
You were
Miami
saying the
did.
same thing.
Who the heck? Yeah, that one. Oh man,
What was his name? They had explained it too. They're like, no. Like he can also play receiver.
oh man, who the heck was it? Why do I think it's like Joe something?
I have no idea. I just remember it happening.
I was so happy when they did that too. It wasn't Jakeem Grant. List of first round draft picks. Hold on, I'm gonna get you that information.
It wasn't like super recent. It was
Ted Ginn Jr.
Yes, that's right.
Ted Ginn Jr.
That's so good.
Cool, man. Well, it's been fun talking draft with you the last few weeks. If you guys have missed any of those, please check them out now, and then you'll understand some of the depth of what we were talking about tonight, where we end with tiers, guys that we like. You'll see the highlights there too as well. We cover all that out. So looking forward to talking to you guys Sunday night in regards to who they picked up. Do we like it? What do we like? What don't we like? Or what do we think
We're
that
gonna love it no matter what.
I remember after the Bills took Boogie Basham, they went Greg Rousseau, and then they went Boogie Basham in the second round. I remember being like, wait, Cree Humphrey is up. Why didn't they just draft him? I remember saying that on the podcast, and ends up he's an all-pro center. So sometimes you're right,
Yeah.
So look at players like that. I know you and I have done that with receivers that were available. Even last year, we wanted them to double dip, and they didn't. So it'll be interesting. Be interesting to see where they draft a running back, which I think they might do that, where they get some of these players from, how many times they trade up, trade back. It's going to be fun, man. I'm really excited about this. Again, this is like the Christmas morning for Bills fans and NFL fans, because you get to see what shiny presents you get, shiny toys you get underneath your tree for this upcoming season to like complete out your roster, like you said, John. So there's no holes ever anywhere. So cool. So thank you guys all for listening. Thank you for liking, commenting, and subscribing. Please leave us a review if you can. If you tag us on social media, we can share that and get you some exposure as well. So, and follow us anywhere on social media at CTW Pod. I showed the clip of the end of Shawshank Redemption when Morgan Freeman sees what's his name's boat in Mexico. Why can't I think of his name all of a sudden? The actor, the main character in Shawshank. All of a sudden, Tim Robinson. No, it's not Tim Robinson. Yeah, something like that. I'm drawing a blank.
So I don't know.
But the scene where he's seeing him on the beach, and they see each other for the first time, and it was like Trey and Josh Allen when they see each other this year. Good to have Trey back. Excited for that. Love you guys all out there. Signing off for John.
Love you, go Bills.
And for me, Nate, love you. No matter what, we're going to walk away with some excitement and great players to be added to the roster. In being we trust. And for me, Nate, go Bills. And we'll talk to you guys again soon. After the draft.
Thank you for listening to the Circling the Wagons podcast. Download and subscribe to us in your favorite podcast service. Email us at ctwpod@gmail.com. That's Charlie Tango Whiskey Pod@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at CTWPod. And most importantly, go Bills!
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
Nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills, Nate.
Well, listen, the whole show is called Circling the Wagons. Say no more. I love it.
Thank you for listening to the Circling the Wagons.